Welcome, everyone, to the Inclusion Podcast. I'm Dr. Julie Costin.
And I'm Dr. Christy Preddy-Franzak. We're so glad you're here as we explore all things inclusion.
So whether you're a school leader, an educator, a parent, or simply passionate about inclusion, this podcast is for you.
In each episode, we go beyond the usual conversations, diving into what truly makes inclusive education work.
Together, let's make a difference, one conversation at a time. Here we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special episode of the Inclusion Podcast. Today's special episode is called The Training Your Paras Need and What School Leaders Can Do Today.
Oh, good stuff, Julie. Our favorite topic. I was thinking about it this morning and I was like, this is how we first met, was over paras. So let's dive in.
Okay, yes. And so Christy and I have been doing tons and tons of training of paraprofessionals for many, many years lately together. And we wanted to start just by inspiring you with a quote from our dear friend Otto Lana. And Otto is someone who has autism, someone who types to communicate, and someone who was supported by a paraprofessional his entire life. And we reached out to him and said, Otto, give us advice for paras. What would you say? And this is what he typed. Please know your position is valued. Please treat your position as a profession. You are not just an anything. You are the thread that supports a day that can be seamless or completely unraveled. You serve the function of interdependence. You are an integral component to my success.
I always want to do a mic drop after that. Every time you read it, Julie, I'm just like, the thread that supports a day. It's like, can it be seamless or will it be unraveled? I can actually just see how that would look in real life. And then I just love that Otto highlights this notion of interdependence and how we are so, woven together that if you want my success, look no further than my paraprofessionals. Capacity, training, confidence, ability to co-regulate.
That's right. That's right. So again, that's Otto Lana. If you want to look up his handle, Otto's Mottos is where he is. He's an amazing human being. But yes, Christy, he hits all the important pieces. How important paras are, how often they downplay their role, or we do in society, and how interdependence is so critical. And this has been true for the entirety of my career and your career, is that paraprofessionals have been super important in creating inclusive school systems. And we know that so many of you have been really excited about the paraprofessional content that we've been sending out. And we are too. We just love it. And many people know about our book,
Paraprofessional Handbook for Inclusive Classrooms.
Yeah. So many of you know us from the book, but we don't know if you know that we have an incredibly robust training for paraprofessionals. So today's topic is going to be all about that. It's going to be all giving you a bunch of really useful tips and things for you to use right away. But this special episode is also going to be a sneak peek of the strategies that are going to be explored in a workshop that you are going to get a very special invitation to.
Yeah, so let's just say, bottom line, today's special episode is important to Julie and to me because it's how we got formed as a group, as a dyad, as a duo. It's also like if district says, what is one thing, Julie, that we could do today to become more inclusive? We don't have a lot of time or money or buy-in. What's one thing we could do? And I would say hands down, we would say train and support your paras differently. And so we want this podcast episode to be a little bit about what you could do to take that one step today to become more inclusive. We want you to know that there are many, many resources that Julie and I have, from books to an on-demand training series that can help train and retain your paras. And then lastly, as Julie said, we're going to give you a special invitation to a free workshop for leaders that's all about training and retaining paraprofessionals. And you can pause this episode right now and go and register at inclusiveschooling.com/workshop. workshops and sign up for our free workshop for admins on how to train and retain paras, and or stay with us for another few minutes and we'll give you several practical tips to do just that in terms of training and retaining.
Okay. So, one of the big things we wanted to make sure is that you left with some strategies. And the number one way to set your paras and students up for success is really building their confidence around challenging behavior. So, probably my biggest worry about paraprofessionals is that they're generally the least trained individuals in a school system, and they're working with students who require the most training and are the most challenging to our systems. So, we have a handout for you that covers what we call lifelines. And this is a very beginning starting point, but it's to say to paras, hey, when a student is struggling with behavior, your job is to help get them back on the boat. Now, what's the boat? The boat is their prefrontal cortex, or their ability to learn, ability to behave in ways that are appropriate for school. So, this lifeline handout has all of these strategies and their lifelines to share with a student to bring them back on board. Chris, do you want to explain it in a different way?
Yeah, so we'll basically say that paras are with the student often throughout the day and see them in the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads. So
Mhm.
when a para notices that a student is struggling, either they are hyper aroused or hypo aroused, an easy thing that they can do in the moment without tons of training is offer a lifeline. And so our handout is saying, okay, paras, you're the boat captain.
Mm.
Boats are where learning and development occurs. Somebody is overboard, and so you're going to get their nervous system regulated. And there are 10 ideas. So all you need to do, admins, is take this download of 10 lifelines, print it out, have a 5-minute conversation with a para and say, for this student, which lifeline do you think would support them? You can even ask the para and the student and the teacher team together and go, okay, we're going to work on number 9, practicing sound minimalism. So if I see a student starting to withdraw or a student starting to act out, we might ask everyone to lower down the volume, think about what's going on in the environment that can be turned off. Let's silence any alerts, ringers, timers, and then just go silent. Say very little and let the nervous system relax. So that's one of 10 lifelines.
I love it. Christy, I'm just going to pick one other just to give you all a sense of it. And the second lifeline that's listed here is approach the student warmly and silently. And the one I'm going to highlight that's listed here is what we want to do is teach and train our paraprofessionals to use empathetic, nonverbal communication, kind facial expressions, relaxed posture, inviting gestures. These kinds of things work wonders for the nervous system. And so we want to make sure that everybody's kind of prepared with this. We have tons more behavioral supports in the thing that we're going to be talking about that's called Parabytes. Parabytes is our big, robust training that we have. We have a webinar that gives you a sneak peek into Parabytes that we think you really should attend, especially if you are in charge of paraprofessional training, or you're a school administrator, or you're a director of special education.
Yeah. So bottom line, if you want to know more about strategies like lifelines, you can go to our free workshop on how to train and retain paraprofessionals at inclusiveschooling.com/workshops. So that's one tip. And in today's special episode of the Inclusion Podcast, we will have the download of lifelines that you can take immediately. Our second idea or strategy or practical tip that you could put into practice immediately to help train and retain paras is something that we also talk about in the workshop, and that's 32 ways to really increase retention. So, Julie, let's break that handout down.
Okay, so you can have that free for just attending this podcast too. 32 ways. And I'll just pick one of them: personalized thank you notes. We've got to recognize and appreciate our paraprofessionals in all kinds of ways. And one thing that I recommend and used to do with the paras that supported me in my classroom was every Friday I would write a personalized thank you note to each and every paraprofessional. It ended up to be one of the most powerful ways that we communicated, and it really helped our relationship immensely. Paras talked about feeling respected and supported through those thank you notes. But don't worry, there are 32 more strategies like that.
I'll take number 9 on this one, Julie. I guess nine's in my brain today. It's about relieving paraprofessionals for professional learning time. So if we hear it once, we hear it a million times a day that there's no time to provide training to paras, either because of contractual reasons, because they're needed throughout the day. So there's no time to relieve them, to we have so much turnover, right? Those are big reasons. So we really need to think about what is our system and our structure like that we can find short periods of time to allow them to engage in professional learning like Parabytes or like just learning about Lifelines, which is also covered in our Parabytes training. So we want them to develop new skills and knowledge in short, easy, consumable ways that they can put into practice immediately. So you can download from today's special podcast episode in our show notes. You can get our 32 top retention strategies. Julie shared one, I shared one. You can also register for our free workshop on how to train and retain paraprofessionals. We go through more ideas that are proven to help you retain those amazing paras. And you can register at inclusiveschooling.com/workshops.
Okay, Christy. So if I'm right, so far we've shared 2 handouts. And we're talking about inviting people to a workshop. The workshop talks all about Parabytes, which is this robust training for paraprofessionals that is actually in bite-sized pieces so that our paraprofessionals can be trained right where they are, right when they need it, right?
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll tell you a couple of highlights of what you get by attending the workshop. And then, Julie, maybe you can tell folks what people have said who've attended this workshop in the past. So when you attend the free workshop, not only do you get things like the Lifelines and the 32 ways to retain students, but you're going to get things in a downloadable workbook that include how paras can provide invisible or silent supports, all about the prompting ladder and how to fade support, how paras can presume competence, how they can support students who struggle, kind of think about your tier 2 instruction, ways that paras can ensure students feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure, how they can offer, again, those lifelines, the PowerPoint that Julie and I walked through, all about the Parabytes, the 32 retention strategies, a certificate of completion, and bonus resources that are articles, posters, videos, and even a coupon off of Julie's book about the Paraprofessional Handbook 2nd edition. So that's really fast list of things, but that's like all you get just for attending our free workshop for admins. Okay.
Wow.
So Julie, what have people kind of thought about it that have come in the past?
Yeah, so we've gotten so many people have come in the past to this workshop, and I just pulled some random testimonials from people, not even the best ones, but great resources, amazing ideas for future training within my district, and a vision for how to help me move the needle in direction of inclusion for all. Helpful tips about para retention. I learned so much about Parabytes, which we're already using this year. So that person already is using Parabytes. Many districts are. This one is so many resources, so many, exclamation point. What I plan to use right away are the retention strategies and sharing the resources like the prompting ladder, presumption of competence, and as professional development for our paraprofessionals. So by attending this little workshop that we have for administrators, you get everything Christy mentioned for free. So again, Christy, what if they want to go to that workshop? How do they get there again?
Yep. Go to inclusiveschooling.com/workshops. You can also check out the show notes for this special podcast episode. We'll have links to everything there, including the Lifelines download, the 32 retention strategies download, and then, of course, the link to register for the free workshop on how to train and retain. And then in order for you to make an immediate impact just by listening to today's podcast and or attending the free workshop, you're going to learn all about what Parabytes does. We've mentioned it throughout this episode, but Julie, let's explain why we even called it Parabytes and what it does to give an immediate impact to districts with regard to becoming more inclusive.
Yeah, you might be listening and you might say, you know what, I'm going to skip the free workshop.
Sure.
I have a budget and I really need better training for paras. Perfect. You're going to look up Parabytes. So Parabytes is our on-demand professional development series, and there are 24 bite-sized videos. It's co-taught by me and Christy, and these videos cover foundational practices, academic strategies, behavioral strategies, and how to help students become more independent. Those are the big 4 topics, and then there are smaller bite-sized pieces. So districts use them in all kinds of ways to provide really useful supports for paraprofessionals.
Yeah. And so they're bite size, meaning they're all anywhere from 9 to 12 minutes in length. So each of those 24 bite-sized videos comes with a practical handout like the Lifeline. So you can take a look at that from today's show notes and get an idea of what is a bite-sized piece of content. And then the training video that goes with it explains from a para's perspective, what is their job or role and how would they use that handout. So we cover, like Julie said, anything from what is inclusion and how can I support students even if I'm in let's say, a self-contained classroom still, or I'm being asked to support a student in a resource room? How can I become more inclusive? And then we go through 24 different topics in that manner. So if you come to the workshop, the free workshop on training and retaining paras, you'll get a VIP behind the scenes look and demo of exactly what Parabytes looks like, as well as how others have rolled it out in their district, given those constraints I talked about earlier, contracts, unions.
Yeah. So if you're ready to make a change in your paraprofessional training, you're going to want to attend this workshop. So check it out. Again, it's inclusiveschooling.com/workshops, and check out the one for paraprofessionals. And then when you're finished with that, you very well might want to invest in Parabytes for your entire district. If you already know you want to invest in that, you can reach out to us at inclusiveschooling.com, and we're happy to talk with you about that and get you all set up. But this training is amazing and really needed to create inclusive schools.
Yeah, so we really appreciate everyone listening to this special podcast edition of the Inclusion Podcast. Your commitment, of course, to creating inclusive schools. Please share this episode with colleagues and remind them to download the handouts and check out the show notes.
And we really love more than anything for you to share this episode with whoever in your district is responsible for paraprofessional training. Getting this in their hands is going to be a game changer for the students in your district. And so we're just going to ask you to do that so that your students can have the support that they so deserve.
Yep. So as we leave you, remember that if you want to do just one thing to become more inclusive, we can start with training and retaining those amazing paraprofessionals.
Thank you for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe and catch up on past episodes where we share valuable insights, straight talk, and practical steps to challenge outdated special education practices. You can find every episode with the show notes at inclusiveschooling.com/inclusion-podcast to build more inclusive schools together.